Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius, the official energy drink of PewterReport.com. This is an emergency podcast because Liam Coen is staying in Tampa Bay with the Buccaneers. News just broke recently from Adam Schefter that Liam Coen is taking his name out of the running for the Jaguars head coaching job. He's getting a new contract with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and will be their offensive coordinator for next season. This is huge, gigantic news because they keep that offense and that system intact going into next season. And we know Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Bucky Irving, and company are very, very happy people right now. So we're going to break it all down. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is the face that runs the place, PewterReport.com, SR. Scott, how are we feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. This was a have to have it kind of thing. And, I was gripping. We've been pretty transparent about what we thought was going to happen, right? And we've been saying for the last couple of days on the Pewter Report podcast about a 90% chance Todd Bowles comes back. The only way that doesn't happen is if the Buccaneers come to their senses and find a way to keep Liam Coen. It didn't have to be as a head coach, though. And I think that's the important thing. I think the Glazers got exactly what they wanted. Jason Light got exactly what they wanted. They kept the man in Todd Bowles, the culture builder, the leader of men. Yes, he's got some work to do on the defensive side of the ball. I think this organization knows and trusts Jason Light to go out and find it, whether it be via trade like he did with Jason Pierre-Paul in 2018, like he did in free agency, getting an unheralded guy like Shaq Barrett to come aboard, whether it's re-signing guys like Levante David has been re-signed last year in multiple years with Jason Light, re-signing Antoine Winfield Jr., bringing back Jordan Whitehead, drafting players on the defensive side. So with the focus being on the defensive side, the biggest thing this franchise did not want or need was going out and finding a new offensive coordinator. This will be a defensive-driven offseason, and now it can be that almost entirely, Matt, because Liam Coen is in place. You can cross finding a new OC off the list. This staff comes back intact. They're going to run it back. And I think we're going to even see a better version of Liam Coen after a year's worth of experience in this division, in this league, with Baker Mayfield and this offensive line and Bucky Irving and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And this is a holiday, folks. This is January 22nd, the day that Liam Coen came back to Tampa or stayed in Tampa. You have permission to leave work. This is a Tampa Bay holiday today.
No doubt about it, especially with Gasparilla right around the corner. Maybe we'll see Liam Coen, on one of the pirate ships and one of the floats in the parade this weekend in celebration of him returning. And it's not just better for Liam Coen going into next season. I think it's better for Baker Mayfield as well. Let's remember, Baker has never had stability with coaching in his career with offensive coordinators and offensive coaches, and now he has it for 2 years in a row with Liam Coen. And we've been saying, and remember, Baker Mayfield, 4,500 yards, 41 touchdowns. If he can get that much better and limit the turnovers just a little bit, oh my goodness, the sky's the limit for Baker and Liam Coen and this entire offense. But we had said the other day as well, whether it was yesterday's podcast or just during the week, that the best hypothetical, which is not a hypothetical anymore, it's reality.
That's right.
Is that the best situation for the Bucs next season is Todd Bowles at head coach and Liam Coen as your offensive coordinator. Because now that you know that Coen is in place for next season, it puts all of the onus back on Todd Bowles to figure everything out on the defensive side. Because like we talked about, if the defense does not get figured out, if the right pieces aren't in place, if that defense struggles again, maybe even regardless of what the record is, the Bucs may say, well, the defense hasn't been fixed, so we're going to move on from Todd Bowles. And then you put Liam Coen in at head coach and don't have to stress out about, what went on this offseason with Liam Coen potentially leaving. But he's not leaving anymore, and that's very far down the road, so we could talk about that at another time by any means. But the important thing is Liam Coen is back. I think it's important from the tweet, the X, whatever you want to call it, from Adam Schefter, that he's getting a new contract. So that leads us to believe that who knows if he's the highest paid offensive coordinator now, but certainly got a pay raise. And we don't know what other guarantees are involved. Is it, hey, we have a succession plan coming in and Todd Bowles is on board as well? Or, hey, we just want to throw a truckload of money at you.
Yeah.
It's so important for the Bucs. I mean, it would have been a tough pill to swallow to find a fourth offensive coordinator in 4 seasons. Takes a toll on anyone. So a historic day for the Bucs and their franchise.
As Andrew Epps appropriately says, let's go Victory Wednesday. Great job, Liam. Or Jason Light. Yeah, exactly. Listen, you have to give some credit to Jason Light here. Daniel Posada says death, taxes, and Jason Light. Yeah, that's true. I kind of knew something was afoot. I didn't know what it was. I got some cryptic kind of text yesterday that some things kind of were up in the air. But see, there's a lot going on, right? Like Mike Greenberg's going to end up staying in Tampa because the Jets are going in a different direction. I still think that the Las Vegas Raiders are probably going to hire John Spytek. The whole Liam Coen thing with the Jacksonville second interview, that was out there. So I didn't know how to read the tea leaves, so to speak, with these texts. And I'm pretty good at reading between the lines. The problem is there's just so much going on right now with things up in the air and the uncertainty. I didn't know which way the wind was blowing. And, so I didn't really share some information, but I did not know that this was in the works. I had hoped this was in the works. And I knew that the Blazers were going to keep Todd Bowles, and this is something that just didn't materialize overnight, right? This is something that was planned about, talked about, et cetera. And that they executed this when he was going to Jacksonville and going to have that second interview. And like we said, either in yesterday's podcast or on Mondays, these things go down to the wire, right? The Blazers are businessmen. And whether it's football and Mike Greenberg and Jason Light getting a Baker Mayfield deal done at the last minute or a Mike Evans deal done at the last minute, the Blazers are the same way in the business world. Like this is what happens in the Fortune 500 boardrooms and all of that. Deals go down to the wire. And so I was hopeful that this was something in the works. I didn't want to just come out and speculate that, though, and get people's hopes up, right? I mean, I didn't have any inclination that this was going to happen. I had figured it might. I had hoped that it might. This made sense to do this because if you're bringing Todd Bowles back and you're not bringing Liam Coen back, the fans were going to riot. All right. I mean, you all have said that. I have taken your voices and texted the people in power at One Buccaneer Place to make sure that they know it. Okay. These people read Pewter Report. They watch our podcast. We're pretty well respected. We have conversations with people inside the building, on and off the record. And I was just giving them a warning. Like, you can't let this guy leave. And this is nothing that was happening this week. This was like mid-season. Like, hey, whatever happens, make sure this guy doesn't leave. It's not going to be good for your franchise in a lot of ways. And I'll tell you what, you know who's the happiest about this? Is Todd Bowles, right? I mean, Todd Bowles is incredibly smart. He can be stubborn, right? He can drive us crazy sometimes with his stubbornness, but he is a very highly intelligent head coach in person, a human being. And, he knows that the offense, this was an offensive team last year. The injuries hit mostly the defensive side of the ball, mostly the secondary. The defense underperformed. From week one, when they scored 37 points in Liam Coen's debut, this was an offensive-minded team, and Todd Bowles knew that. And he has a job in part due to Liam Coen and the offense, which bailed them out of some games and poured it on in the second half and allowed Todd Bowles to blitz like crazy because they had a lead and the run was off the table, right? When you're whooping up on the Chargers or the Saints in the second half, things like that. And to have not just that, Matt, but to be able to completely focus from now on the defensive side of the ball. And actually, Todd Bowles can go to the Senior Bowl, which he hasn't been the last couple of years. He and Jason Light have not been at the Senior Bowl. We've been there. They haven't. We've seen guys like Spytek and Beal and those types of guys from the scouting department at the Senior Bowl. But now they can go because they're not going to be looking for another offensive coordinator.
It's the weight completely off the shoulders of Bowles, of Jason Light, of really the whole organization to have Liam Coen back in the fold. They could go an entire draft with defense now if they want to. I wouldn't totally advise that. I wouldn't mind the Bucs getting another wide receiver. Or
I'm pretty sure Liam. I'm going to say this. I think Liam Coen. If I'm Liam Coen, and I'm putting a stipulation in the contract, I'll say I'll sign this, but you got to give me a wide receiver in the draft, right? And just because Mike's coming back in a contract year at age 32, Chris Godwin is going to be re-signed. I've already said it, but in my professional reputation on the line, he will be back. This is a deal that's going to get done. So, and that's going to make Liam Coen very happy because honestly, Chris was 1A in his offense and Mike was 1B in his offense, right? So, but the thing is, you have to safeguard yourself from what happened this year, right? It was no fun for Liam Coen, and he made it work, and he gets credit for it. But, Matt, it was no fun going out there with Sterling Shepard, Ryan Miller, Raheem Jarrett, and trying to beat the Falcons and beat the 49ers and beat the Chiefs. You know, and the fact that he put up at least 20 points in those games speaks to his brilliance as a play caller. And so to me, I'm almost certain they're going to draft another wide receiver. Trey Palmer is not the answer. Sterling Shepard's not going to come back. So you've got to have that Jalen McMillan level type player at wide receiver 4, right? If that is your number 4, a young guy that's in the hopper that is a Jalen McMillan up-and-comer like that, you have to plan for the future. Mike Evans, there will be a day he is no longer suiting up and playing football in Tampa Bay. Hate to break it to you, the dude's 32. We're closer to the end than the beginning, right? Chris Godwin will come back, probably a 2 or 3 year deal, right? But he'll be 29 in February, right before free agency. This might be his last deal in Tampa. So you got to plan for the future, and you've got to safeguard that position. Thankfully, Liam Coen was able to go to 12, go to Pony, right? 21, go to 13, 3 tight ends. He was able to do some things that he didn't even really want to do, but kind of had to do because he's an 11 personnel guy. But Matt, if you get another stud wide receiver, and that's the only player you draft, and the rest is defense, look out, man.
Yeah, there are not too many requests from Liam Coen, and one of the biggest things, excuse me, that we saw from him is his overall adaptability, getting the most out of the wide receivers not named Mike, Chris, and Jalen McMillan, getting the most out of the tight end room. Devin Culp, the last 2 games of the season, really stepped up. The Pony package, putting 2 running backs on the field at the same time, making your 3rd string running back the NFC Offensive Player of the Week with that game by Sean Tucker against the Saints. Over and over and over again, he was able to kind of reinvent the offense based on what personnel was around and available to him. And now you come in another season, year 2 with Liam Coen, more familiarity, more comfortability as well, whether it's Baker, Mike, and Chris, really everybody involved. There's no reason why this team, while you don't want to end the season the way that the Lions did, but there's no reason why this team can't be that next Lions team to win 14, 15 games and just continue to ascend. Now, obviously, you got to figure it out in the postseason. But even if there's like even little progression, it still needs to all come from the defensive side. So the Bucs are in a great spot. Go out, get that pass rusher to complement what you have with Liam Coen back. And this team, like you've been saying, Super Bowl window is wide open.
Amen, brother. You're exactly right. Felix Schmidt says, do you think they guaranteed him the head coach position once Bowles retired? I don't know. I'm probing for details as we're doing this podcast. It's obviously a very busy time at One Buccaneer Place right now. Not getting any definitive answers on that just yet. I'm sure that will probably come out. Here's the thing to keep in mind, though. This is not an automatic situation where you can just anoint Liam Coen. And I don't even know if you can legally put that in an agreement. I think that almost has to be a handshake type of deal. And the reason why is because if you put it in the agreement, if you put it in the contract, it violates the NFL's Rooney Rule, right? Which says before hiring someone, you must interview at least 2 minority or women for any head coach, general manager, or coordinator position. So I think there's some legal jeopardy in doing that. The Buccaneers don't want to be sued, right? So I don't know that you can do that. Maybe it's a different situation with Gerard Mayo in New England, but even though he was a minority head coach, the Rooney Rule states you must do 2 interviews, right? So I don't follow the Patriots. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I know that Bill Belichick wanted that. Robert Kraft signed off on that. That's eventually what happened. But I don't know if you can legally put that in the contract because of the Rooney Rule, which is it's an NFL clause. It's the law in the NFL. So so there's that. So has that been discussed? Probably. Is it a wink and a nod and a handshake? It very well could. I just don't know for sure about that. I'm so hyped for this season. Let's go. This is the important thing, Matt, right here. Baker Mayfield was going to be on his 17th coordinator, his 27th coordinator, 37, whatever it is. In how many years he's been in the league, nobody wanted that, right? He works so well. Liam Coen works so well with this offensive staff that he imported that to have even like Josh Grizzard being promoted, it would have been different, right? Or to have somebody else come in and then what do you do with the assistants and they got to learn a new system? This is just pick up where you left off. It doesn't mean that this team's going to automatically score 29.5 points next year or even more. But man, you like where this thing starts now rather than the rebuild, the reset, hit the do-over button.
Because even training camp, there's not the, hey, well, while Dave Canales, when he says this, it means that. When Liam Coen says this phrase, it actually means this, this, and this. No, you're already going off to the races with this group that you have with the terminology that Liam Coen has. I love this comment as well from Brian S., who says, I bet half this chat has gotten up from a cubicle and walked into a conference room for this podcast. Yeah, we appreciate everybody joining us. Emergency podcast. That's why this offseason, you have to keep your head on a swivel. You never know when, some big news is going to happen. And thankfully, the big news happened today with Liam Coen, because I was thinking today as well. We spoke about it on yesterday's podcast. I just had the worry and concern, like many, that Liam Coen would be leaving, but also that the Jaguars wouldn't even get to their other interviews with Robert Saleh, et cetera, because they would like Liam Coen so much that he would not be leaving the building. But that was not the case. We don't know when the Glazers necessarily, or whoever in the Bucs organization, spoke to Liam either prior or after talking to the Jaguars as well. But nonetheless, the bottom line, as Stone Cold would say, is that Liam Coen is in Tampa Bay. We have a number of super chats to
Let's
get
do
to,
it.
so
let's get to it.
Get it rocking and rolling. A little bit of profanity in this one, but we'll let it slide because it's a super chat and it's Liam Coen Day.
We're PG-13.
Mr. Folgers X, thanks for the $2, says, to quote Bucs legend Tom Brady, let's effing go. And of course, Liam Coen grew up idolizing Tom Brady.
That's right. That's exactly
he would
right.
approve.
Yes. And we approve of that too. That's fine.
Also, Zach Brown again, I love this comment, said, thank you, 8 pound, 6 ounce newborn baby Jesus. Great line from Talladega Nights. Kyle Miller, thank you for the $4.99, says, if nobody got me, I know Liam Coen got me. Can I get an amen? Amen, Kyle Miller. Amen.
Yeah. Here's the thing too. A couple things. So Adam Schefter reported, and I can confirm it. I don't know where this ranks because you don't see coordinator prices or salaries or average, per year. That's not out there for public consumption. not even all of the head coaches' contracts are made public. Sometimes teams will say, we're re-signing this guy at $5 million a year. Or, with John Gruden, he got that 10-year, $10 million per year deal from Mark Davis out there in Las Vegas, for example. That was public, right? We don't know what Todd Bowles makes. I don't know. So we don't know exactly what Liam Coen makes. But here's the interesting thing, Matt. With Ben Johnson taking that head coaching job, it was reported that Ben Johnson, whatever he makes, it was believed to be between $3 to $4 million. Usually, most coordinators, I think the average price for coordinators is between $1 and maybe $1.5 million per year. Younger, less proven coordinators might make less than $1 million per year. Okay, so let's say Liam was making just under or at $1 million. It's probably safe to say his pay just got tripled. Is probably my guess. And with Ben Johnson taking that job, all of a sudden he's no longer the highest paid offensive coordinator, right? So it's not like you had to trump what he was making. I guarantee you, Mike Greenberg and the Glazers know what all of these guys make behind the scenes, even though it's not reported. And so if he's off the board now, you don't have to go to maybe $4 million or even $3.5 million. You could sit there and say, we'll replace you at $3 million. And I'm just speculating here, but we'll make you the highest paid offensive coordinator now. And they don't necessarily have to do that trumping Ben Johnson, because Ben Johnson's no longer an offensive coordinator. He is the head coach of the Bears. So a little bit of fortune there maybe, came into play as well for the Buccaneers. Not that this affects their salary cap or anything. It just affects their pocketbook.
It does a little bit, but again, the Bucs are used to doing this. From Monty Kiffin back in the day to Todd Bowles a couple of years ago when Bruce Arians was still in charge, and now Liam Coen. And again, it's all in the results, right?
That's right.
Liam Coen went out, and that's the biggest thing. It's not just that this offense improved; it's that so many things turned around.
That's right.
In the offense. Chris Godwin went back to the 2019-2020 version of Chris Godwin. Mike Evans continued to get 1,000 yards. The run game, probably the biggest improvement, vastly got better with Bucky Irving, and
that's right,
having the first 1,000-yard rusher since 2015, being a top running team in the game. It changed absolutely everything. Michelle C., thank you for the $2 super chat. Says, a good day snow in Tally, and this LFG. I saw some videos of snow falling in Tallahassee.
Pensacola got hammered.
Crazy over it. I mean, bad weather, but anything could brighten your day when Liam Coen is remaining as the offensive coordinator.
My wife Ashley's up in Amelia Island right now, and they got a little dusting of snow too up there by Jacksonville. So maybe that's what it was. Maybe Liam Coen spent all of his years in Rhode Island and went to UMass and said, finally, I moved away from the snow and the cold. And, it's not that Tampa's warm today. It's like 40 degrees. It feels like temperature's 29 out, but it's not snowing here. And maybe he looked at the forecast in Jacksonville and saw snow this morning and said, I don't know, man. I like being a little further south than Tampa. And the Glazers said, we'll give you millions of reasons to stay here. And it happened.
Zap Brannigan, thank you for the $2 super chat, says, so we going full defense in the draft. It'll be defensive heavy. Yeah. But as we just discussed, wide receiver, an extra one for Liam Coen will be very important.
Yeah. Speaking of the draft, this would be probably a good time to pitch our draft show. Tomorrow night, Josh Capo and I, 8:30 Eastern time. We're having our first mock draft. Hit pewterreport.com tomorrow at 5 o'clock, right at the end of the podcast. So make sure you check out Adam and Matt for the podcast tomorrow. And then at 3.5 hours later, Josh and I will be live. So I know there's a lot of people that are at work right now that you're listening, and we appreciate that. And you're watching. Maybe you've got the headphones in and you're typing away at your keyboard a bunch of nothing because you're listening to us, and we appreciate that. Maybe you hit the bathroom, for a bathroom break, or decided to take an early lunch to watch the show. That's awesome. But you really can't watch the show because you got work. We're taking care of you. We're doing a primetime podcast for all of our mock draft shows. So first one tomorrow night, 8:30. The Bucs will target defense in our mock draft. There will be a wide receiver for Liam Coen in there. I'll tell you that. So make sure you stay tuned to pewterreport.com tomorrow at 5 o'clock for our mock draft, as well as that 8:30 p.m. Eastern time Primetime podcast with Josh Capo and myself.
Bucs Basement, thank you for the $5, says this pretty much solidifies Coen as our next head coach, which is fantastic for the future of the franchise. Now, if Bowles gets rid of yes men, would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Can't guarantee with Coen, but it certainly feels that way. And with Bowles and the defensive staff, we've called for people to be replaced. One guy that may be replaced, we don't want them to replace, but it's kind of out of Todd Bowles' hands. But the biggest story is Liam Coen. You never know who's going to be available next year for teams looking for a head coach.
Yeah.
Sometimes you fall into the right situation. So, I mean, just like how we all thought Liam Coen was probably leaving, we also can't guarantee that he's absolutely going to be the next head coach for the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
But to me, stability is the biggest thing in all of this, and the Bucs are at least stable for next year, and you can worry about future problems after next year's offseason.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I've seen some coaching changes happen even after like the Senior Bowl, right? So it's like if you, I remember Jay Hayes, the defensive line coach, was fired. I actually broke the story on that. And it was like a Friday night after the Senior Bowl that year. So this is like late January, maybe early February is when they fired Jay Hayes. We broke the story here. And guess what? I called for him to be fired. So I felt good writing that one because Tampa Bay had like 0 pass rush. That was like the year where I think Gerald McCoy led the team with like 5 sacks. It was the year. It was under Dirk Cutter. It was 2018. I think it might have been 2018. Dirk's last year, the pass rush was like non-existent. I mean, this team had like 20 sacks. It was ridiculous. And it might have been even 2017 leading into 2018. Yeah, because Dirk still had a year left. So sometimes you get what you wish for, but you have to wait a little bit. I don't know. I think I've made my case to Todd Bowles on my stories on pewterreport.com, and not afraid to put myself out there. I don't care if I'm public enemy number one in certain coaches' minds. Do your job and wouldn't have to call for you to get fired. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
So, and we'll see. I've put out there, hopefully Todd has heard me loud and clear. Monty Kiffin, who was an older, established defensive coordinator, very successful one, like Todd has been here. He had to replace Herm Edwards when he went to become the Jets head coach. He had to replace Lovie Smith when he went to become the Rams defensive coordinator under Mike Martz. That was the Bucs linebackers and defensive backs coach. And he brought in 2 young, relatively unknown guys, and Joe Barry to replace Lovie at linebackers, and some guy named Mike Tomlin from the University of Cincinnati to replace Herm Edwards. And the interceptions went from 25 in 2020. Boy, wouldn't we love to have 25 interceptions in a down year?
Oh my goodness, doesn't even seem real.
Yeah, 25 interceptions in 2000. Then Tomlin gets there last year under Dungy, and it goes from 25 to 28. Then it goes to a team franchise record 31 in the Super Bowl year in 2002, and all is right with the world, right? And I credit Monty Kiffin for not bringing in the old cronies and the yes men and guys he's coached with before that had tons of experience and all that. He brought in young, fresh, energetic, enthusiastic guys that could relate to today's players exceptionally well. Mike Tomlin was younger than John Lynch. Okay. You know what I'm saying?
Crazy.
Raheem Morris was younger than Rondé Barber. And it worked. And he had the old experienced guys in Rod Marinelli and Monty Kiffin and these young hotshot guys and Mike Tomlin and Joe Barry, and it meshed together perfectly and it worked. Gosh, I'd love to see Larry Foote and Casey Rogers and Todd Bowles and a couple of young defensive assistants come in and get this thing going with the pass rush, with the secondary. I think it can be done, but is Todd going to be stubborn and stick with his guys, or is he going to do what I think he should do, which is go out and get some guys that will not be yes men, get some guys that will challenge him, bring new ideas to the table, not challenge him in a lack of respect, a lack of authority realm, but like, let's build a better mousetrap. Let's take what is very good and make it great, or what you think is great, Todd, and make it excellent.
Fresh faces means fresh ideas.
Yep.
Jonas Correa, thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Says Liam had to have known bulky was a cancer. Imagine going from light to bulky. Major downgrade. So yeah, when I first saw that report from Schefter, a big part of me thought, oh, maybe he just didn't want to work with the front office of the Jaguars. And that's what everyone, it's like the worst kept secret amongst NFL reporters, fans, like everyone really, that a lot of people don't like working with Trent Baalke. And even Ben Johnson came out and said that he didn't come out and say it, but reports came out about that the infrastructure there is something that he didn't really want to be a part of, which obviously all arrows point to the general manager. I'm sure that maybe had something to do with it. I mean, who knows? We weren't there for the interviews themselves. It's probably just more of, increased pay, added bonus with the Bucs, and knowing what you have in Tampa Bay with Baker Mayfield and everybody.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Samuel Fisher, thanks for the $5 super chat, says, I'm so happy in his new bag that Light gave him to stay. Did it have a head coach succession plan put in place?
We have to think so or assume so. It can't be written into a contract because of the Rooney Rule, right?
Wink and a nod.
Yeah.
A backroom handshake agreement.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest here, right? That's the assumption, and Jason Light is as honorable as they come. Like, you can knock Jason Light for not signing this guy or for that bad draft or whatever, but like, he is an absolute man of integrity. Like, he can take the ridicule. Well, you traded up to get a kicker in the second round. Like, that's fine. You can critique his bad draft picks or the free agent misses that he's had or whatever. That's fine. But as a Midwesterner, from one Midwesterner to another, and Jason Light, I'm from Kansas. He's from, Nebraska/Colorado. Don't mess with a man's integrity, right? And so to me, if he says like, hey, you're going to be the guy, if that is the verbal thing, you take Jason Light at his word, because this guy is 1,000% full of integrity. He is not a shady dude whatsoever. He is as above board and as high quality and high character. And honestly, it reflects throughout the building. Like, there's no villains in the front office. There's no assholes in the locker room, right? He runs a culture-driven organization. And I think that's why he stayed, because the Blazers see the value in that.
Very likely. Lord Licorice, thank you for the $10 super chat, says, I'm so pumped about this huge W. Yeah,
Lord
very
Licorice,
happy
that's
for
great.
Bucs fans. This has been the top conversation, really, since the offseason ended. Speculation both ways. What could convince him to stay? What would make him go? What head coaching spot would make him leave? And this could have gone on for another couple of days, but now it's not. And we get this emergency podcast out of it. And we have a new Pewter Report YouTube channel member. Shout out to Zap Brannigan. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you.
Yep.
Cody P, thanks for the $5 super chat. Just stopping by to hear the wonderful news. Thank you, Pewter Report, for staying on top of this. Go Bucs. Well, that's what we do with our YouTube channel and our Pewter Report podcast, which, by the way, we'll still have one today at 4 o'clock. You might be thinking, oh, they're doing one early today because of Liam Coen. We're doing a doubleheader today.
That's right.
We will have a podcast coming up at 4 o'clock. But when you have gigantic news like this, you have to address it immediately.
Yep. 5 big bucks who may not be back in 2025 will be the topic at 4 o'clock today. And at the same time, if you're at work right now, you can listen, but you can't comment or chat or whatever. We understand that. You can bring those comments at 4 o'clock. We're still going to be talking Liam Coen at 4 o'clock. So, but we are going to have another topic of the day, and we'll spend a couple minutes on 5 big bucks who may not be back in 2025. These are some big names that you're going to want to check out and stay tuned to. But we're also going to be talking plenty of Liam Coen for the afternoon crowd at 4 o'clock as well.
Richie P, thank you for the $10 super chat, says, this will be the first of many emergency podcasts this offseason. I'm nervous we are going to have an emergency podcast introducing Tyreek Hill to the Bucs for a second round pick. I think off the top of my head, this is our third or fourth ever emergency podcast. I
Yeah.
think it went Brady retiring,
Yep.
Brady coming back.
Yep.
I know we did one with Liam Coen when he was hired,
Yep.
and then now
Mhm.
this one. So we've at least had 4. Maybe there was a 5th one when Brady retired again.
Yeah, the Brady one I remember because we were literally at the Senior Bowl, and I think we had just gotten done with doing some player interviews there, and we're literally like in the lobby of the convention center, and we're like, we're doing an emergency podcast right now to commemorate the news and discuss it, and the funny thing is we had just got through asking a couple of quarterbacks there, like what would it be like to come to Tampa and learn under Tom Brady and all that. And like 15 minutes later, Brady's retiring, and you know what? Thankfully, this didn't happen on our way to Mobile. Thankfully, it happened today rather than Monday when we're driving. We got to pull over in Lake City, Florida, or whatever. And, do a podcast.
Yeah, that would have been a fun podcast, but certainly an awkward setting.
Yeah.
Sam, thanks for the $9.99 super chat. Says we baking again with the hand emoji.
That's
2
right.
of them. I think this. I said it before. The sky is the limit. I think Baker Mayfield next year will be solidified as a Pro Bowl quarterback. Yeah. He'll be voted in. Who knows? Maybe the MVP conversation as well.
Yeah.
Christopher Oxentine, thank you for the $5 super chat. Says,
see what you did there.
Coen must have balked at the Jags front office. Luther Burden is the wide receiver that I want.
God, I love Luther Burden. Give me some Luther Burden. I think Liam Coen also likes Luther Burden too. Yeah, I mean, listen, here's the crazy thing. You always want to draft best player available in the first round, right? The goal of any team is to draft, not for need, but like we want to get a Pro Bowl caliber player in the first round. That is the goal. And hopefully, if you're a team in need, that desire intersects with a position of need, and then you nail it. Like, for example, I'm still very high on Graham Barton. I know he had a share of rookie mistakes. I don't know of too many players outside of Tristan Wirfs that didn't have a lot of rookie mistakes. It's part of growing up. We saw, Matt, Cody Mauch make an incredible leap from an okay rookie year to now he's comfortable at right guard. He worked on his body, got stronger, and like, good Lord, the results in year 2. Cody Mauch was playing as good as Tristan Wirfs and Luke Gedeke at the end of his second season. And I think that Graham Barton is going to make that quantum leap in his second season. He's got a full year with the exception of one game, New Orleans game back in week 6, where he learns what to do, what not to do, what he can and what he can't do. And he's got all that experience now. And you know what? His last play, and I did a Pewter Pulse on this yesterday, his last play of 2024 was an early snap on 3rd down. That was a negative play that prompted Todd Bowles to kick a field goal rather than go for it on 4th and 3. Say what you want about the decision, but that was his last snap. You don't think that's going to haunt him all offseason? You don't think that is going to drive and motivate Graham Barton that his last snap of his rookie season was a mistake, a costly mistake? He is going to be in the weight room feeling that, thinking about that. That will be a driving, motivating factor. And that's what the great ones have, is that chip on their shoulder, that fuel. Like, what is that fuel that is going to drive me to the next level, right? And it's like Bill Belichick. All he thinks about are the Super Bowls he lost, not the ones that he won. Those are the ones that fuel him and drive him. Tom Brady's the same way, right? So I love that about Graham Barton. I think he's going to be a fantastic player. And my point to all this is what if Jason Light goes out and gets a big name edge rusher in free agency, a big time cornerback, and they fill a lot of these holes to where they can sit there and say, all right, we can go offense in the first round and then defense the rest of the way. Like, don't rule that out either.
Everything is open. Everything is on the table. And I'd also argue that Graham Barton is further ahead as a rookie than Cody Mauch or Luke Gedeke were when they were rookies. So it'll be fun to see how much better he can get. I could see him printing out a picture of like Baker with the ball after the early snap, giving it to Bucky, being like, I don't know what to do, and using that as fuel as well.
Yeah.
Jamie Miles, thank you for the $2 super chat, keeping with the puns and jokes.
Yeah, we love it.
Bucs OC's balking at Jags head coaching offer.
Yeah.
And we like it.
And
Actually, we love it because
Yeah.
it means only great stuff for the Bucs. And Steve Shute with a $20 super
Woo,
chat.
Steve,
Thank you very
you.
much, Steve, who says this is big news with big capitalized. George Edwards and Kevin Ross still need to go. We have such a soft secondary. Also, strength and conditioning and athletic training staffs still need to be fixed. If so, Super Bowl next year, LFG.
Yeah. So Bobby Slater is the vice president of sports medicine, and he got that promotion last year because the Bucs were literally one of the healthiest teams in the league. You go back to offense, and all of the starters, with the exception of left guard Matt Filer, played all of the games last year. I say last year, 2023. Rashad White, Cade Otton, the entire offensive line outside of Filer, Baker Mayfield, Mike and Chris. I mean, it was crazy how healthy the team was. They did everything the exact same way as the year before, and all these injuries pop up. So Jason Light is scratching his head. Todd Bowles is. Bobby Slater is. Trust me, they're going to turn over every rock and see, was 2023 a fluke or was 2024 the fluke? Where's the median? Where's the average in all of this? Because there's no doubt injuries hurt this team, pun intended. As for the assistant coaches, I will say this. We've seen Todd Bowles be slow to come around to making some necessary changes, right? Slow with Devin White, slow with KJ Britt, slow with Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. But eventually those changes were made. This is a long offseason. We'll see if there are some changes to be made. As it stands right now, from my sources, they're not expecting any changes on the defensive coaching staff, outside of maybe Casey Rogers, who is a free agent, leaving the organization. I don't see that happening. I agree with your analysis, Matt, in your article when you said that he might be angling for a raise. That seems to make more sense. He and Todd Bowles are like best friends. They're best buddies. And Casey's a damn good coach. He was the best defensive coach last year on the staff. But what I like about this situation is the defense was so bad in that last game. And I know y'all are looking at points and saying, well, the Bucs held the Commanders to 23 points. Look what the Lions gave up. Fine. If you're happy with 0 takeaways, if you're happy with not forcing a punt the entire game, if you're happy with allowing 55% conversions on 3rd and 4th downs combined, if you're satisfied with that, brother, I can't help you. Okay, I can't help you. But if you're not satisfied with that, if you're unhappy with that, if you're unhappy with 7 interceptions, 6 coming from the secondary, as I've continued to bang the drum about not bashing Todd Bowles, but trying to sound the alarm bell. This is not okay. This is not acceptable. In no realm should that be acceptable. So the fact that it was bad, the fact that Liam Coen's offense wore the superhero cape all friggin' year, I'm glad it was that bad, because that may prompt and institute some changes on defense. Something's got to give. If the coaches don't change, the way they coach, the emphasis on takeaways has to change. You can coach how to create more forced fumbles. You can coach how to pick off more passes. I'm going to be meeting with a couple of Bucs players this offseason and giving them my 2 cents worth unsolicited about making the football your life on the defensive side. Okay. I saw Simeon Rice force, I don't know how many fumbles here in Tampa. I've seen Levante David do it. Saw Derek Brooks do it. Saw Rondé Barber be the best ball hawk ever in franchise history. There are ways to do it. Some guys have a natural feel, the instinct, they're around the ball, the football IQ, but you could also make it such a point of emphasis that the turnovers come in bunches.
In an odd way, you kind of need the straw to break the camel's back.
Yes.
In order to be like, all right, like, this is enough, essentially, which is what's going on. And it's not fair to the offense to ridicule them because they didn't score 30 points one time, but they still were able to put up a good amount of points in that postseason game. The defense, in my opinion, for that one game against Washington was equally as responsible as the offense, fumbling it late in that game, or early in the fourth quarter, late in the game, and then the Graham Barton snap at the end of it. I think each side was equally responsible, but if you ask yourself who took on the most responsibility this season, it was no doubt the offense. So the defense needs to pick it up. If this team wants to go to an NFC Championship game and win that and make it to the Super Bowl, the defense has to answer a lot of things, because the Bucs got their answer today.
Yep.
On offense with the return of.
I want to go back to this from G-Vegas. I know we're talking about Liam Coen here, but you can coach the secondary on the fumble punch. The great thing about being 52 is when I first started covering this team, I walked in the door at 24 out of Kansas State University, and I was peers with a lot of these guys, right? Like, I'm 1 year older than Mike Allstott. I'm the same age as Rondé Barber, right? I mean, I'm the same age as Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks and all that. So when I walked in the door covering this team, I was the youngest beat reporter, and all of these guys were my peers. And it helped me kind of connect with them. Like, I don't have the connection that a younger Matt Matera or Adam Slavon has, being more their age at 52. All these guys could be my kids, right, in the locker room. So it's like when I go to talk to Sean Tucker, I go as like talking father to son sometimes, or put on my Coach Scott hat, and I have the ability to go back in my mental Rolodex and say, you know who the best pass blocking running back was in Tampa? Little old Warwick Dunn, like 5'8", 5'9", 180 pounds. The dude was crazy. And I asked Sean, I said, you know who Warwick Dunn is? He's like, yeah, I've heard of him. I'm like, you need to study Warwick Dunn. Not the running, not the receiving, the pass protection. Because this team doesn't trust you in pass protection right now. That's why you're not getting in the game, and Rashad White is. So Rashad has one more year under contract, and if you want to be the next Rashad, and you want to be on the field on third downs instead, be the best pass protecting running back on this team. Watch Warwick Dunn, right? You can coach how to punch the ball out. I guarantee you, when I talk to Zion McCollum, I'm going to say, have you heard of Charles Peanut Tillman? He's going to be like, I've heard the name. Like,
Peanut punch.
Yeah. 44 forced fumbles from a cornerback in the NFL. 44 forced fumbles, including 10 forced fumbles in 2012 playing for the Bears. Okay? 10 forced fumbles that season. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He had 6 seasons with 4 forced fumbles or more. It can be taught. You can watch these guys. And the thing is, I don't know if Kevin Ross has ever told Zion McCollum, hey, we're caught up on interceptions and catch 50 balls a day from the jugs machine. That doesn't work. But like, maybe watch some Charles Tillman. Maybe call Charles Tillman. Maybe say, hey, can I Zoom with you and can I pick your brain? Like, that's what has to happen for some of these guys to level up.
There's no doubt about there needs to be improvement on that side of the ball. Sam with the $4.99 super chat, thank you, says, is Liam a chip on the shoulder kind of guy? Do you think wanting to run it back if they're being held to 20 points was a factor?
Yes. It wasn't the deciding factor, but yeah, I think part of it is.
Unfinished business.
Unfinished business. I do know just from talking with Liam, like, when it became clear that the 511 total points was when that was doable towards the end of the season, and they fell 9 points shy. They finished with 502 total points. Now, keep in mind, it's not all offense, right? We had the scoop and score with Winfield back in week 6. We had the punt block return from J.J. Russell for a touchdown. So there was a special team score. There was was there a safety this year? Yeah, safety this year against the Falcons in Tampa, right? So there's 2 points there. There's 16 points scored non-offensively. But as a team, as a collective, they scored 511 points in Tom Brady's 2021 season. And that year they had 2 pick sixes from Mike Edwards.
Mike Edwards.
Yeah.
And in the same game.
Right. The Falcons. Yeah. He was the NFC Defensive Player of the Week. And I think they had a safety. It might have been the year out there in Denver with the block punt or something like that, maybe. But anyways, so even in Brady's year, it wasn't all just offensive points. But Liam Coen knew that they finished 9 points shy of that record. And that kind of pissed him off. Like, he was bummed about that. He was happy that Mike got the 1,000 yards. He was happy that they won and they beat the Saints and they clinched the division. But there's an edge about Liam Coen that I really dig about this guy. Like, he has an edge to him. And the fact that he wasn't like high-fiving everybody about, he's like, man, we're 9 points shy. Like, that's important to him. So I would not be surprised if that is a goal, because they got close to it, 502. They were 9 points away from tying that record in Tampa Bay for total points scored.
And he's got a chance to break it this year. A lot more exciting things to come with Liam Coen as he is back with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as their offensive coordinator. Just a reminder to everybody, we will have another show today in a couple of hours at 4 p.m. talking about 5 big Bucs who may not be back in 2025 and can enjoy that Liam Coen will be back with the Bucs. We have a show tomorrow at 4. Unsung Bucs in 2024, the most unsung players that provided help with the Bucs last season. And then, of course, at 8:30, a live Bucs mock draft with Scott and Josh going over their first mock draft of the season for Tampa Bay. We'll have a Senior Bowl preview on Monday. That's going to do it for us on today's show. If you're not already doing so, please make sure you follow us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We are at Pewter Report, and our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment on this video as well.
We're two subscribers away from 17,000, folks. 2 subscribers. We're at 16,998.
Do us a favor. Do the Antoine Winfield Jr.
That's right. We need 2
for us.
Let's get there to 17,000 by 4 o'clock today.
For Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks everybody for watching this emergency podcast, and we'll see you in a couple of hours for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.